Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at Sunny. That's the guy you can see on screen right now, and as always I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first part of the video, and in the second part of the video we're going to take a look at the perks, mutations, equipment and everything else you need to know in order to recreate the character if you want to do so. So let's get right into it. What this character is going to be about is we're going to take a look at double dipping. This is something I have done before. It's not the first time, but last time we did it, what I was doing is I was actually looking into a pipe bolt action pistol, using it in stealth, and well, worked kind of well. Definitely was a nice and enjoyable build. But last time, what I was doing is I was mainly looking into just boosting my damage a little bit by virtue of using both pistol as well as rifle perks in order to get some damage boosts going on. But what I want to do this time here is a little bit of an aspect that sometimes is overlooked when it comes to double dipping, because I mean we should probably first just sort out what double dipping is, if any of you happens to not know about it. Basically, ever since the game came out, there are some weapons within Fallout 76 that do benefit from more than just one weapon class in terms of perks. So nowadays, the amount of weapons that fall under this category are severely brought down, but probably the most prominent example was the meat hook back in the day. So the meat hook was one of those examples where double dipping was extremely efficient. It was basically for quite a lot of time. I guess it was even one of the most powerful weapons within the game, you could say, because it was an unarmed weapon that also benefited from the gladiator perks, meaning the one-handed melee weapon perks, and that made it extremely powerful. And yeah, other mentions are the ones we are using here: pipe revolvers as well as pipe bolt action rifles. The important thing here is, though, you have to have them equipped with a stock, meaning they work as a rifle, and if that's the case you can boost their damage by both gunslinger perks as well as rifleman perks. Another noteworthy addition will actually come up today, I think, or no, not today, with the next midweek event, which will going to be the pepper shaker. For those of you who don't know, this is a weapon that's going to be added into the game in this year, and it's going to benefit from both heavy gunner perks as well as shotgunner perks. Anyways, a lot of talk here. Today we're going to take a look into a pipe revolver weapon you can see here, and the reason I chose it is basically last time I did a video on double dipping, I also wanted to use the pipe revolver, simply because I find it is quite an enjoyable weapon in and of itself. But it has another benefit that I was looking into here, so if you have followed my recent videos a little bit, you may remember that I was looking a bit more into different receivers lately. So not only go for the receivers that do the highest amount of damage, but try to find more other uses, which nowadays that damage works additive rather than multiplicative, I think is a more sensible option in some situations. And mainly what I found interesting is using hair trigger receivers, if your weapon has one, can boost your fire rate as well as your reload speed very much, which is kind of interesting. And on this occasion here we did that. We used a hair trigger receiver in order to give us a very high fire rate, as you can see here for a revolver. I mean, it obviously isn't as well, doesn't work as well as a automatic weapon. It still is a revolver, but for a revolver it really has quite a high fire rate. As you can see here, if I'm spamming the trigger, you can really get a lot of mileage out of the weapon. And same goes for the reload speed. It's very fast. Now, what I was actually going to look into here in this video is I really wanted to make the best use out of double dipping that I could, meaning that not only did I want to boost our damage here by quite a bit, other than just using Rifleman or um, gunslinger perks. But what I wanted to do is this double dipping gives us a few more benefits that fly a little bit under the radar. Now, in terms of this weapon here, what we can do is we can actually boost our reload speed, which is something you just can't do with revolvers or pistols in general, other than using a legendary effect. So there sadly isn't any perk that increases your reload speed with guns or guerrilla weapons, which is a little bit of a shame because actually, if you were to think about these kind of weapons, you think their main advantage would be that those are relatively fast weapons that can deal a lot of damage and can reload very fast, are very nimble and so on. But yeah, somehow we don't have a perk for that. But on this occasion we actually can use rifle or commando perks as well as gunslinger perks, meaning that we can actually use ground pounder, which is a very cool addition for the weapon because, as you will probably tell, one of the big drawbacks. Here you can, by the way, see a classical example of my free aim skills, so there's another reason why I'm always using that, other than that it does a lot of damage. But yeah, back to the topic. Yeah, one big thing holding back revolvers or pistol in general is that they have to reload relatively often. Even if you have something like a 10mm pistol where you can use a slightly bigger magazine, yeah, you definitely are held back a little bit by your reload speed. And being able to boost its speed can be make or break for a character. It can really be a big difference on the battlefield. And as you can see here, another good thing is we are relatively efficient at mid-range, and overall this character is a lot of fun because it feels very fast. Now, obviously if you're using something like a commando or something, maybe a heavy gunner, you would have faster times to kill, you wouldn't take as long here. But for a weapon that is essentially a gun, especially if you're using it in first person, which you should do, otherwise your hair trigger receiver doesn't work as well. Maybe I will show that off later if we have time. But yeah, it really still feels like you are a gunslinger, like you're wielding a revolver, and you can actually boost your reload speed, which I said like 5 times now, but there's more to it. Another great thing is what you can actually do is you can really make yourself pretty confident in crippling enemies, which is a nice little addition to the build, because what you can do is there are both perks for pistols as well as rifles that give you a crippling chance. So what we are talking about here is Modern Renegade for pistols, which we are using, as well as the Tormentor perk, which lies in luck and uses and is basically benefiting rifles or commando weapons, and both of them work, giving us a combined crippling power of, let me lie, I think it's something like 35%, something among those lines. Anyways, it works pretty well. You saw that when I was fighting the Scorch Beast, so basically it was like 2 or 3 shots to one wing, and the other wing basically broke within the first shot, which might not seem very powerful on the first glance, but is actually something that really gives your character a lot more versatility. One big kind of drawback when it comes to semi-automatic weapons like rifles or pistols is that you lack the DPS when it comes to fighting bosses or even smaller bosses. Think about things like Scorch Beast, think about Sheep Squatches, Behemoths and so on. But oftentimes you can pretty much hard counter those enemies when you're just crippling their legs or wings or whatever. And that really is a kind of battle tactic that shouldn't be overlooked. Obviously you're always best off just using a weapon or a class that's powerful enough to just kill enemies quick. But if for some reason you want to choose a class that you just enjoy but that falls flat in those regards, having a weapon or a means to cripple an enemy reliably can be a very viable battle tactic. And on this occasion that works very well. Now we're not gonna see a lot of use of it when fighting standard enemies like these here super mutants or anything, but fighting anything bigger than that, you definitely see a lot of use out of it. You may have to train a little bit with your VATS game. By what I mean, just getting a little bit more known to how VATS works, where the specific limbs you want to aim for are, so you can relatively quickly switch between the limbs during a fight. Because getting caught up in there and searching for maybe the legs or something, that can really fuck your whole situation up a good bit. But once you're kind of sufficient, knowing like, yeah, okay, I have to switch like 3 times in that direction and I'm reaching the leg. Very unlucky here, by the way. If you can do that reliably, you can really start to control battlefields, which is a very nice thing. Also works nice against glowing ghouls, for example. You can completely hard counter them. If you see them approach you, just shoot at their legs, and you have a good chance to cripple their legs, making them basically useless, and then you have all the time you want to have in your world. And, well, yeah, that's basically... I'm not sure what else I should say about this character. Like, I could talk a lot about the receiver here, the hair trigger receiver, but it's basically something I first took a look at when it came to the hunting rifle, and then only recently I was looking into this exact same thing on the medical malpractice. For those of you who don't know, that video was pretty fun. I actually had a lot of fun with that weapon, so definitely check that out. And was also another gunslinger, a revolver build, but in power armor, which sounds ridiculous, but was actually quite fun. And yeah, as you can see here, I mean, we are not the most powerful guy in the world, but for what we are using, we're really not doing all that bad. Now, one thing that should be said about the character is that we're using a lot of perk points dedicated to stuff that you could argue that the return isn't valuable enough, like using another 3 perk points just to cripple an enemy a bit better might not be worth it for you. Like, you can really achieve more power and a better gameplay just by using a commando class, going for stealth or anything, which by the way would be an option here. But ultimately I still found it a lot of fun because, yeah, I just loved pipe weapons ever since they were introduced in Fallout 4. I really found the idea behind them very nice, but they just, yeah, they just fell flat once it came to the end game, and it's a shame in my opinion. Now, it does obviously make a lot of sense because, yeah, these are just makeshift weaponry, but on the other hand, spending your time in Fallout 76, you are basically going to spend the most time in the end game. It's just leveling up to level 50, 60, 70 or so is a matter of maybe 2 weeks or so, but the majority of the time you're playing, you will play at level 100 and plus, and yeah, just having a bunch of weapons that you're never going to touch again is a bit sad. Now, you can obviously always just go for a bloodied build and can make basically every weapon useful, but after all, the channel here is about not using bloody more or less, but finding other solutions. And it really feels satisfying to dedicate so much of your perk points to pipe revolvers and then actually use them against super mutants and so on, which, yeah, I can't explain it, but it really is a lot of fun, and you really feel like you are a professional that really invested into pipe revolvers, even though it's not something specific about, well, it is something specific about pipe revolvers, but basically you're using an exploit, so that should be said. Bethesda never really came out to say that this is intended, and ever since they took out the ability to double dip for the MeTook, it's pretty clear that also for the pipe revolver and the pipe bolt action rifle, yeah, these double dipping situations aren't really intended. There was another one, I was forgetting about it earlier, but now that I remember it, the M79 grenade launcher. Back at launch of the game, that weapon actually benefited from both the shotgunner perks as well as the explosive perks. So that's also a nice thing. But yeah, they took that out relatively soon, even though that was never really too OP, because back at the time you couldn't use it for the simple reason that it broke after 2 or 3 shots. Anyways, a lot of talk here. This was the gameplay part. I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, you saw it's nothing super overpowered, but one thing should be said. Firstly, I really would have loved to use an anti-armor, faster fire rate, faster reload revolver just to see how much we can actually push the limits of the weapon. But the only thing I found during preparing the video was a Furious VATS Crit faster reload revolver, and comparing the two, while there was definitely still another bit of benefit in reload time, we ultimately are already in a situation where, yeah, the difference isn't too crazy. Now, I sadly didn't really get to see how fast we could fire with a faster fire rate version, but I guess the results are pretty similar to the reload situation where, yeah, it would obviously be nice to use it, but it wouldn't make that much of a difference. And after all, explosive probably yields us better returns in the long run. And I think the point came across, and we already fire very fast, reload very fast, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, that's basically it when it comes to the gameplay here. And yeah, another thing in terms of armor, we could have a definitely a better set, but I will get to that into a minute. And now we're going to take a look at the details of the build. So first we are going to take a look at the effects here, meaning we are taking a look at our mutations. So we have Bird Bones, Chameleon, Eagle Eyes, Egghead, Herbivore, Marsupial, Speedyman, and Unstable Isotope. So as always on this character, I point out that Chameleon and Unstable Isotope, those are leftovers from older builds that don't really hurt us though, so on this occasion I just left them in. I didn't really bother to remove them since Chameleon does virtually nothing in this situation, neither positive nor negative, so no reason to remove it. And Unstable Isotope, well, if some melee attacker gets a hit on us, we have a chance to explode in a little mushroom cloud, which can be funny, doesn't do a whole lot. Isn't really necessary. Can even screw you up a little bit if you're fighting ghouls, for example. They can heal from that radiation burst, but ultimately it happens so rarely that, yeah, I didn't really bother with it. The important mutations you want to take a look at here are Bird Bones, Eagle Eyes, Egghead, Herbivore, Marsupial, and Speedyman. So let's start with Bird Bones and Eagle Eyes. This is a very easy combination. If you are using VATS, those two mutations basically never hurt. Maybe unless you're using a VATS melee build, which maybe we will see a bit more about that in the near future, with VATS effects being added to the melee weapons. But as for now, forget about it. Now, we want to have more agility. The reduced fall speed is nice, but basically really the extra agility is what we want to have here. More action points means we can stay in VATS for longer. Eagle Eyes, better perception, quite obviously very useful for us, so ensures we have a better VATS hit chance, and critical damage being improved is also very nice. Egghead, one of the mutations that really doesn't do a whole lot for us in terms of combat prowess, but yeah, having a bit more intelligence doesn't hurt, and the debuffs aren't too crazy for us. Herbivore is just there because you didn't see it and didn't use any buffs during the video, but yeah, especially Blight Soup is very potent here, increasing your VATS crit damage yet another time. I think it's 40% or so with this mutation, which makes it very beneficial. And in general, there are a lot of vegetarian food buffs in the game that can really help you when you're using VATS, giving you extra perception, extra crit damage, and so on, extra AP refresh. And lastly, we do have Marsupial and Speedyman, very standard combination of mutations that I have on basically every single character of mine. Marsupial, very self-explanatory. For everyone who has the mutation, you don't want to live without it anymore. Just being able to jump higher, jump over fences, jump on cliffs. It's just really a game changer, and yeah, pretty much everyone runs around it, either for maybe role-playing or immersion purposes. And then we have Speed Demon, which arguably is one of the more important mutations here because it syncs very well with what we're going here, using a low ammo capacity weapon, but reducing its reload speed as much as possible. So we can very reliably use it. Extra movement speed also very nice to have, but really the reload speed is what we wanted to have here. And now we're going to take a look at our equipment here. So firstly, this is it, our anti-armor explosive pipe revolver. So anti-armor explosive faster reload would be perfect here. You could go for less VATS cost, but I never really felt like the VATS cost was a concern for me. And in terms of mutations, the important part, modifications, the important part here is the hair trigger receiver. Otherwise, the build works still, but you can get more damage with a hardened receiver. I think we can pump our damage numbers up to something like 152 or so, but yeah, the faster fire rate really is more than it says. Like, if you equip it, I think it changes from 7 to 8 in fire rate, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it really makes a ton of a difference. And the rest here is aligned for better VATS use, and precise for better VATS use and better condition. By the way, I fully repaired the weapon for 100% when I started the video, and here is the condition loss you can see, which I was concerned to begin with, because I somehow had in mind that the weapon loses a lot of condition very fast, especially if it's explosive, but I didn't really have any problem. It held pretty good. And then we have a reflex sight yet again for better VATS accuracy and less AP cost. And just as a side note, I do have a quad explosive version with me, exactly the same mods, which is kind of ridiculous to use. It's especially good against ghouls and so on, and I quite enjoyed it. I just didn't want to switch weapons within the video, so yeah, here it is. And in terms of armor, this is where it gets a little bit funky. We are a little bit all over the place. We have an auto-stim piece with extra strength, mutant slayers piece with junk weight reduction and environmental disease resistance, and lastly we do have 3 Vanguards pieces, which is nice. One has extra perception, 1 extra strength, and 1 extra AP refresh. As you can see here, 2 of the pieces are already broken, so overall you can go for whatever you like here. In a perfect world, I would say 1 auto stim for Vanguard and the rest AP refresh would be very cool, but there's nothing you desperately need here. I just wanted to use this here very ugly skin that I always hated, and yeah, decided to just went all in with the crazy and just add the mask, and somehow I thought that the looks work. Looks even worse at night, so it's a bit neon in my opinion, but yeah, at the day I think it works relatively well and is so ugly that it's pleasant to look at yet again, somehow. Yeah, that's it. Wait, maybe this could be interesting. I have shielded road letters for extra perception and agility and luck, which all benefits us relatively well. And now we're going to take a look at the perks here. We do have 5 strength, traveling pharmacy and bandolier, pretty straightforward here, just weight reduction perks, so if you can live without them, don't use them. They are just for convenience, they don't really add anything to our combat prowess. If anything, you probably want to have bandolier here because we're using ballistic ammo, but I tend to have either traveling pharmacy or the grocer's backpack, so yeah, on this occasion I don't have the backpack and we have to went with traveling pharmacy. Also, it gives me the addition to carry something like Psychotats, which I tend to always have a lot of, and really works when I'm fighting Scorch Beast, can really make a big difference. Yet again, I didn't really bother to do so during the video, but when I'm playing by myself, I tend to do it every now and then, pop a Psychotats or just Psycho or anything, so that's just up to you. And then we have Perception, where we went with rank 2 in Rifleman, Expert and Master Rifleman, rank 3 in Tank Killer, which gives us armor penetration and a 9% stagger chance, rank 3 of Ground Pounder, which helps us a lot with our reload speed, 30% faster reload speed on a, well, it is a rifle, but on a revolver, it's a nice thing, and I really wish that there would be a dedicated reload perk for gunslinger weapons. And lastly, we do have Concentrated Fire at rank 3, which works very well since we're using a semi-automatic weapon, so therefore, yeah, we can really do with rank 3 of Concentrated Fire. It's a nice thing to have here. In terms of endurance, I am relatively high for a gunslinger. Not that we are a really high endurance character or anything, but I just wanted to have a little bit going on here. Adamantium skeleton and fireproof, those were the essentials. I ran with endurance 6 for a while, but really thought that just a bit more endurance and Ironclad 3 was not a bad decision. Ironclad 3 was just because, as you can see down there, I don't have a lot of endurance perks ready on this build. I went with Nuka-Cola for a while just to pop a Nuka-Cola every now and then, but ultimately I decided that, yeah, even though it's just 30 extra damage and energy resistance, it seemed to make a little bit of a difference, especially if all our armor pieces are repaired. This can really just give us the edge to push us into the diminishing returns when it comes to armor. So yeah, go for whatever you like here. Feel free to do whatever you want. Ultimately you can go down with endurance, it's not a problem. It was just giving me a little bit more room to breathe when I was fighting and not worry too much about my health. Then we have Charisma with a very prominent combination on my builds here. 7 Charisma with Lone Wanderer and Tenderizer. There's just really a reason to experiment here. This is a combination that just proved to be very effective on very often on a lot of situations. Basically, 20% less damage, very nice here. We are intended to play solo, but especially the 30% AP regen, that's massive. That's really a big difference that we're looking for. And Tenderizer, pretty straightforward. We're very rarely one-shotting enemies, and yeah, having 10% multiplicative extra damage because it is a debuff to an enemy rather than a buff to your weapon, also pretty good. So ever since we're taking the second shot, we're doing 10% more damage. Very nice. And yet again, something that seems to be a kind of a trend in my videos nowadays, I forgot to switch something else. We had Gunsmith here, which is actually completely useless for us because it doesn't affect pipe weapons. If somehow you don't know, there is actually, I'm not sure if I have it here. I don't. There's actually a specific perk for reducing condition loss on pipe weapons, which is Licensed Plumber. Licensed Plumber. So even if it was equipped, it didn't make any difference here. I actually wanted to go for Demo Expert, which gives us a little bit more damage on our weapon. I will show that off here. So 142. I can't really remember where we were earlier, but it shouldn't be that much of a difference. It's just here because, well, running around with 1 intelligence wasn't the plan here. Then we do have agility and luck. Those are the most important stats other than perception here. We do have Modern Renegade, Action Boy, Gunslinger, and Expert Gunslinger at rank 1, and Gunfu at rank 2. Bit of an odd combination here, but this is due to the way that I was already equipped with perk points and how I not wanted to waste a lot of perk points. So, firstly, those two here, Action Boy and Modern Renegade. Action Boy I would recommend just because you want to have a lot of AP refresh going on. Modern Renegade, this is, well, this was just a little experiment and I just wanted to double down on double dipping, if that makes sense. Arguably, you don't really need Modern Renegade. There could be better options here. You could max out the Gunslinger perk. You could go for a little bit of Adrenaline. So definitely this isn't a definitive pick. I just wanted to use it just because I wanted to see how much use I can make of double dipping, meaning that we combine the 12% cripple chance from Modern Renegade with the Tormentor perk, which we're going to take a look at in a second. So once I'm talking about Tormentor, I will combine those two and talk about what I'm thinking. And yeah, then we have 2 times Gunslinger maxed out, which is very obvious, more damage output, and I went for rank 1 of Gunslinger and rank 2 of Gunfu. Ultimately, what I would do if I had spent a few more level ups is I probably would have went with rank 2 of Expert Gunslinger and rank 1 of Gunfu. Pretty simple here. Yeah, as much Gunslinger as possible for extra damage, and Gunfu I just wanted to have rank 1, but for some reason I only had rank 2 on this character, and yeah, didn't bother to level up another time, or basically 2 more times, because I would have needed 1 level up to bring Expert Gunslinger to rank 2 and 1 to bring Gunfu, give me a new Gunfu card. So yeah, what should I say? If I would decide here, I would go for rank 2 of Expert Gunslinger and rank 1 of Gunfu, but ultimately the difference wouldn't be too crazy, so therefore I didn't bother to wait for a few days more or for another day in order to record the video. And then we're going to take a look at luck here, where we are taking a look at Tormentor, which is something I just touched upon a few seconds ago. So your rifle attacks have a 15% chance of crippling a limb. This should apply to our weapon as well as Modern Renegade, meaning we can combine those 15% chance of crippling a limb with the 12% chance of crippling a limb, which doesn't sound like a lot, but well, we're looking at 37, math genius, 37%, but I'm really not sure if that's how percentage chances are multiplied or edited in this situation. So you're just getting more chance to cripple a limb, if that makes sense. And as you saw when we were fighting the Scourge Beast, and as I can tell you from just personal testing, it works very well. You really see a difference in using just one of them, or using both perks, or using none of them. So yeah, I would definitely go for it. It doesn't work as well as Enforcer on shotguns, but honestly we're just a little bit biased by using such an overpowered perk when it comes to crippling, that we overlook things that work well as well. So Tormentor on itself, Modern Renegade on itself, I would argue aren't really worth it, but since you can combine both of them here, it actually made a lot of fun, and really it was working reliably enough so that I actually went out of my way to really use the crippling function pretty regularly. So that's something that speaks for the combination here. And other than that, we do have Grim Reaper Sprint, better criticals, and critical savvy here. These three perks are a very straightforward combination for a VETS character, so you can arguably do more, but this is basically the bare basics that you want to have in luck if you want to go for a VETS build. Grim Reaper Sprint, arguably one that you can leave out if you have a good AP refresh going on, but especially critical savvy and better criticals give you very good returns, giving you on this occasion a crit on every third shot, and better criticals are pretty straightforward, giving you better damage with your crits, and yeah, works very well. Arguably you could go for more crits or do something other, but I went with this combination and was quite lucky. I was quite happy, sorry. And lastly, yeah, Grim Reaper Sprint, very straightforward. We want to refresh our AP a little bit while we're having fights, which works relatively often. On average, I would say we can kill like 2 to 3 enemies before we run out of VETS. So that gives us a good chance that Grim Reaper Sprint procs in the meantime. And then we do have Starch Genes and Class Freak. Starch Genes, not a lot to talk about here. We want to keep our mutations, not get any new ones. And Class Freak, well, I wanted to have luck maxed out, and therefore I had 1 perk point left, which you could have spent for pretty much everything here, but I went for Class Freak because, yeah, that's never a bad decision, just reducing our debuffs a little bit, even though it may arguably not do a whole lot, because the stats we are having debuffs on due to our mutations are so debuffed that we're basically down to 0 anyway. But other than that, well, it doesn't hurt to have Class Freak rank 1 here. And then lastly, we're going to take a look at our legendary perks, which is going to be a bit boring on this occasion here, because as you can see, they are all just spent in different legendary attributes. So we have rank 3 of legendary luck, rank 2 of legendary perception, rank 2 of legendary agility, rank 3 of intelligence, 3 of strength, and 2 of endurance. So yeah, they just give me access to more perk points or further boost stats like agility and luck. So yeah, not a lot to talk about here, honestly. Pretty straightforward. Like, you can obviously try to use less perk points and go for something like what reds. You can use this weapon, as I said, in stealth, going for follow through or anything. But yeah, this is the approach I took. So this occasion we're not having to talk a lot about the legendary perks. So yeah. Now let's take a quick look here. There it is, thumbnail of Sunny. And well, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and thanks for sticking with me so long. And yeah, we'll see us in the next video. So for those of you who are stuck with me till now, I just want to give a little bit of a look in the future, near future. I have one more build I'm working on currently, or maybe 2, that I want to release, maybe this week, maybe next one. But after that, I'm really looking forward to look into the new possibilities that come with Steel Rain. I'm talking about another Alien Blaster build, which is something I'm really looking forward to. I really hope that the Alien Blaster, as far as I know, it should be able to be crafted into a legendary item. But yeah, we're going to see in a few minutes basically at this point. And yeah, I will try to find some interesting things to do with the new legendary crafting system. So yeah, I'm really at the moment looking for weapons I want to take a look into. But that's basically it. So thanks a lot for watching and see you next time, guys. Bye.